He said, "Good morning, Sergeant." I said, "Good morning, General." I got about 50 yards down the way, and here's a bunch of GIs. "How'd you get away with that?" I said, "2 reasons. I've got 7 gold bars down here on my arm, which we were the only ones that had that." And I said, "Not only that, I had orders from a 5-star general to salute nobody, and you do not disobey a 5-star general." And so these were some of the things. You might wonder what we ate. "Thou preparest the table before me in the presence of mine enemy." Among the things that we ate was cane seed or corian and barley was our main food. And I was talking to a Japanese woman, and she said, "That's chicken feed." I said, "No, that's chicken feed and POW feed." And we always had some kind of a delicious soup, either radish tops, potato vines, seaweed, something like that, you know, some kind of a delicious soup. Now we did have meat. I will not tell you all the meats that I've eaten. I will tell you one thing, a secret you might remember. Mule meat is better than horse meat. Mule meat is a little bit sweeter than horse meat. Now in Japan, they gave us, about the last year, in order to feed us up a little, they would give us about 6 grasshoppers. Now grasshoppers are not bad until the hopper part gets caught in your throat, and then it sure tickle. But this was the food that we had. Then they flew from Okinawa down to Manila. Plane I was on was a B-24. One of the motors conked out on the left side of the plane, and the other one started sputtering. And the pilot said, "We may have to ditch. You can either ride down the plane with me, or you can jump out and use a parachute." I said, "Sir, I'll ride down the plane with you." But we landed at Lingayen, went on down to Manila, 29th Replacement Depot, and there they fattened us up a little, and then they put me on the Hugh Rodman to come back to the States. The Hugh Rodman was entirely made up of POWs outside of the crew. Now, coming back, a sergeant major was a good friend of mine, and he said, "Leonard, I need someone as a clerk." And so I was his clerk. Now, we were allowed to order a box of Baby Ruths. I ordered a box of Baby Ruths, but there were 4 guys that did not want their Baby Ruth, and one man only wanted half a box. Well, I couldn't let go of those to waste. So coming back from the Philippines to San Francisco, I ate 5.5 boxes of Baby Ruths. But when we came into San Francisco, finally through the salt of San Francisco, we saw the Golden Gate. Now, I got up on the deck about 3 o'clock in the morning, and I was not the first one up there. But anyway, we went under the Golden Gate. I'll tell you, it's a wonderful thing to be back in the United States, back home once again. And oh, what a rejoicing that would be. And coming back, a lot of the guys threw things over, but I saved my mess kit, canteen cup, things like that. I show them at Boys State, Girls State when I was up there last year. I speak at Boys State every year, and I've got a cup. Some of you know what a GI cup is. A friend of mine was a mechanic in Japan, and he got a couple canteens, and he made it so that we had a Dutch oven. And we did some quan that way. Do all of you like to have a birthday cake or things like that? I'll tell you a birthday cake that we had. It was in the Philippines. And a friend of ours, family friend, was a colonel. He was in charge of the PX at Fort Stotzenburg. And one day he called me down and he said, "Leonard, you've got a birthday coming up in a day or two, haven't you?" And I said, "Yes, sir. Got one coming up Friday." He said, "Well, I was able to get food on the black market." And he said, "I'll turn it over to you." And I said, "Okay." So Thursday night, we soaked our rice to get ready to make our flour. And we were all set for Friday. And then the Japanese told us we would have to work on Friday, but we'd get Sunday off. Well, you might imagine what that rice looked like. 2.5 days of moisture on it. But we used the Armstrong method of making flour. I don't know whether any of you know that or not. But you take your rice out on a board, you get a bottle, and you Armstrong it. And so we made our flour. And then my helmet, you know that seal helmet was handy. When I came out, it was my mess kit for a while. But we cleaned it up a little, and we put our flour in there. And then we had a couple of duck eggs. Well, the ducks weren't quite there, but they were getting close. But anyway, we mixed them in there too. And then we had an overripe coconut. And we cut it up fine, put it in, and we did have really overripe pineapple. And so we put that into our batter. And then a friend of mine, or one of the fellows that was helping on the cake, he knew a friend that had some bicarbonate soda tablets. So I put it in there to make our batter rise a little. And we got it mixed up and got it taken over to the mess hall and to bake off for us. And then we had some kind of a delicious pudding topping for it. We had a couple bananas that were just a little bit blacker than this. Of course, they didn't need any mashing. But we had a handful of peanuts that we mashed up, put with those bananas, put that over for a frosting for a cake. Now, I've eaten better cakes. I never ate one I appreciated more than that. But I thought I'd give you an idea of what we had on it. But like I say, as I look back, I thank God that He watched over me, and that it's just by His grace that I'm here today. There's so many times as I look back that I was close to death with malaria. I ran a temperature of 107.5 temperature. Now you get brain damage at 105, so don't blame me. So these were the various things that I went through as a POW, and I've enjoyed being with you today. And Lord bless you, and I'll turn it back to your chairman.